last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the founder and CEO of North Star Financial Group, no other than Mr. Jay Tobey.
Thanks for having me, Daniel.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. J. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yes, my name's Jay Tobey, and I'm the founder of North Star Financial Group and also North Star Recovery and Wellness. So there's an investment firm that we own, but our main vertical is drug rehab, mental health facilities. We're kind of rolling those up in the Western United States.
Mr. J. Tobey, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom through your business and hoping for more and more and more empowering business like this to come. So let's talk about behavioral health or capital to make an impact in the behavioral health space. When you say beyond capital, what is the most critical non financial resources needed to drive a systemic change in behavioral health?
That is a great question. I really think that it is an integrated care system. Right now, it's super fragmented, massively siloed. People are just working within one individual silo, and then they get referred to another. Those two silos aren't talking to each other, and I could just go on for days for of how fragmented this industry really is.
Fragmented. It is. And Mr. J, again, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom through your business. Where do traditional funding models like grants or VC fall short in addressing the deep rooted challenges of behavioral health access, quality, and equity?
Say that one more time.
Where do traditional funding models like grants or VC fall short in addressing the deep rooted challenges?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that these are individuals and their lives. Sometimes the traditional funding models are really focused on return, on return of investment, ROI, which is very important in all investing. But this is very different than call it software or products. These are individuals that are, going through some of the hardest things that they have ever gone through, which is changing, as anyone who has worked on improving themselves knows. And so I think that is one of the things that hinders traditional finance in this space.
Beyond writing checks, what does a truly impactful investment or intervention strategy look like in this space?
I think it's really giving time. There's so much that people can do. Again, without writing checks, there are individuals in your local community that could use support. Everyone knows someone within their own family that could use some help, whether that be just someone to talk to. If the world was full, if everyone had just their grandmas that they could chat with, I think it would be a much better place because sometimes they had just the pearls of wisdom.
Mr. Gay, let's talk about key levers beyond money. How can we strategically address the crippling workforce shortage in behavioral health beyond just funding more training programs?
Wow, Daniel, that is a great question because it's something that we deal with every day. Is uh, there is a human need in this space, in the sense of there's not enough people coming in to work. I mean, and it's tough. Every day you're hearing about people's problems. Um, people are doing just great work, but man, it's a tough industry. I really think that's where one of the things that will help is AI. I hope AI comes in to this space and gives those therapists or those people working in this field, that extra tool to do things to help their clients quicker, to have their turnaround time when they're taking notes or submitting notes. And I think there's a lot of streamlining that can be done. It's a very clunky old system.
And more organized for sure.
Yeah, hopefully.
How can stakeholders collaborate to build better data or infrastructure and define meaningful outcome metrics that go beyond simple utilization to truly capture recovery and well-being?
One of my favorite topics because it's such a data rich environment. People are we're getting health data, we're getting mental health data, and I really think we could be driving better, you know, finding those key indicators of when someone is, struggling. There was a really cool technology that I saw the other day that through your voice, it could tell if you were struggling. You could just be speaking normally, but it could get the inflection and it could give you back, give you feedback. And I think that that's an amazing tool. Um, but there is so much more that we can do to make the recovery process streamlined and efficient. Because right now, honestly, all the recidivism rates, anyone who's ever had a family member go through this would say what I'm saying, which is it's a really clunky, tough system. Most of the time, people go in and out of recovery. One of the
Yes.
things we're really striving for at North Star is to create that safety net so that when they inevitably, statistically, most people are going to have some sort of relapse, mental health wise or substance wise. But how can we create that safety net to catch them and so that it's a one step back, two steps forward? They don't have to go all the way back. They don't have to burn their entire life down, go all the way back and start from zero. Let's catch them before they fall all the way.
Yes, I like that innovation. Through your voice, he knows what are your capabilities. As awesome. What specific policy changes, like local, state, or federal, offer the highest leverage for unlocking innovation and scaling effective behavioral health solutions?
Well, there's a handful of policies. Each state is very different. That, I think those people that care about this space should get more involved in policies because the policy writers are informed usually only if something goes wrong. And so, one of the things that I personally don't love is there's a policy in Utah that 16 beds and below get a different rate. They get a higher reimbursement rate than 16 anything bigger than 16 beds. But if you think about the demand that we have in this sector um, for people looking for recovery, 16-bed facilities are just not going to cut it. Yes, you maybe get a higher quality of care when there's only 16 people in one recovery facility, but we just need, bigger facilities. And I think it's really hindering the, people are looking for beds and services all of the time. And I think that's a really hindering policy when you're talking about making these really micro facilities. I mean, think how many 16, if 1,000 people are looking for services, um, think how many 16-bed facilities you'll need.
That's crucial for sure. And Mr. J, how can technology be deployed most effectively to augment human connection, to expand access while ensuring equity and quality?
Yeah, one of the things I hope is that technology right now, I mean, I'm just thinking of AI because I don't have a better answer for this, but it becomes like it gathers. AI is really good at just gathering so much data and churning through that data. And so one thing I hope it helps is coming in and helping the therapist because this is just a theory I have, but with enough data, I'm sure we're telling us as humans we think we're individual, but with enough data, we kind of see patterns that emerge. And I feel like there's a lot of similar, probably conversations, if you think of all the United States, that are happening with therapists. I feel this way. Whatever those conversations are. And through technology or AI, we can be tracking, we can be giving it data. In Rhode Island, this client said this, and this therapist recommended this. In 3 months, this was the outcome after doing these certain steps. In Arizona, a therapist had the same, someone said the same thing to their therapist. They gave a different treatment, and in 3 months after following these, where are they? And doing that at scale, at a large scale, I hope to really see improvement. Because if we can get 10, 1,000 people all saying the same thing to their therapist and doing A/B tests all the way through, you'll start to see, okay, well, if we get this, if someone says this, we give this sort of you know therapy over X amount of months doing the X, you get this outcome. Maybe, hopefully, technology can help us with something like that. Because right now, you can go to 5 or 6 different therapies, especially for talk therapy, and get 5 or 6 uh, answers.
Mr. J, what are the most effective models for deeply integrating behavioral health services into primary care, schools, or workplaces and social services? Breaking down.
Yeah, that is a great. When I talked about silos earlier, that is exactly what I'm talking about because it's such an integrated. It has to be so integrated with the community, with your primary care. So, for example, sometimes, if someone comes into one of our facilities, they might not have seen a doctor for years and years and years. Primary care, especially right now, is hard to get into, and so. Um, if we can get their labs, if we can get a baseline where their body's at biologically, I think that's a good starting point because um, you can if you start at a spot that you know where you are at, especially in primary care, and then over the time of treatment, are you improving in your health in general along with your mental health? I think you have to look at it as an ecosystem. You mentioned schools. Kids nowadays, we don't do as much with youth. We're more of an adult focused company. But my goodness, I can't tell you how many nonprofits and how many people are really focusing on the adolescent, which I appreciate because if we can stop them having issues now, then hopefully they put us out of business. That's the hope. Now, there's such a backlog that I have to tell people we have plenty of work to do in behavioral health. But if you can focus on schools, adolescents, help them now, I mean, unfortunately, mental health and stuff like that is just running rampant within the youth and adolescents nowadays. So it's a big issue to tackle.
Very well said, Mr. J. Beautifully articulated. Very well said. And as a founder and CEO of North Star Financial Group, what are your short term and long term goals?
Yeah, really, you know, it was created so that we could pour a lot of resources into. We have two verticals. We have hotels we invest in, and these drug rehabilitation facilities. It was really created so that we could pour a ton of resources into uh, the behavioral health sector. I really think with more resources that this problem, sometimes it's oftentimes just a resource problem, whether that be federal funding. We see that recently with all of the cuts that have been proposed. Everyone's nervous about their funding, and that's what I hope if we can have the goal of really impacting that vertical and being a successful financial firm.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. J, and looking forward for more and more. Wow. advocacy to come, and of course, more projects to come, more success to come. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
I would say go for it. I feel like I'm a young founder. We found great success in these spaces, and that's because I have the belief that I can go and accomplish the big things that we're trying to do. And then also surround yourself with mentors and people that have already done. They might not have done it in your individual sector, but they've already done it in a sector. Older mentors with just years of experience. I feel like that has been a secret unlock for me because they can tell me if I do X, Y, if I do these things here in 3 or 4 years, I'm not falling off a cliff, which in business sometimes you don't even know that long, that far away. You're really headed for something bad.
Thank you for your advice, Mr. J. And can you please recommend a book that influenced your journey?
I loved Cash Quadrants by Robert Kiyosaki. Man, that really, he has a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, being a real estate investor as well, um, within this sector and in general. I really wanted to learn a lot about real estate. He talks a lot about that in Rich Dad Poor Dad. The Cash Quadrants book helped me visually understand that there's a lot of different paths to finding success. What is what is better for you and your personality? And do you want to be self-employed? Do you want to be called what is an investor? You can be very successful, kind of like Bob Iger, as an employee, um, or he was more successful than recently. Um, Steve Ballmer, I guess, of Microsoft, who now owns the not Knicks, the other team in LA, Clippers. He
Oh,
was an employee of Microsoft as CEO. So really figuring out where your journey is, if you're thinking about your journey, what fits for you. I wanted to be a kind of an investor business owner. And so that's what we've done.
thank you for your recommendation, Mr. J. And I hope people will read it and they will empower like you. And how can the ecosystem create a safer space for innovation and calculated risk taking in behavioral health, where the consequence of failure feel high?
Well, the consequences of failures already feel high. I mean, these are people's lives. We've had everyone, if you've been in this space, has lost someone. Um, I've had many a friend unfortunately commit suicide. We've lost clients to to suicide or overdosing. Um, it's just going to be natural if you decide to go into. That's why I said it's a tough space, but we know it. We know that it's worth it because we're making a difference.
Totally worth it, people, because Mr. J is empowering people all over the world through healthcare. What experience or insight convinced you that the capital alone is insufficient to move the needle in behavioral health?
Yeah, you can have all the money in the world, and I think what you said, which we went back to, which is employees, quality of operators. I mean, you have to have a really great operator that knows what they're doing, knows how to uh, handle not just the administration side of it, but also the therapeutic, and then there's medical with doctors, and so this is a human heavy business. Again, I hope that's why technology comes in and helps supplement and support. But at the end of the day, it's humans helping humans. And that's one thing that just, you can bring a lot of money to the problem. But at the end of the day, you've got me talking to you and how can we find success for your journey?
Yes, indeed. And Mr. J, what's one under appreciated beyond capital strategy or resource that you believe has enormous potential if leveraged more widely?
What is one what? Of
Underappreciated.
underappreciated investment strategy?
Yes.
Okay.
Beyond capital.
Beyond capital. I think investing in yourself. I think your podcast is a great example of of you know books 101. You're you're asking people to work on themselves. You're asking your guests how they found success. I think people need to invest in them. Make yourself a machine or your machine as efficient as you can, whether that be health, spirituality, whatever you would call that, knowledge base. Just make yourself a well crafted machine to go after whatever it is that you're trying to go after.
Very well said again, Mr. J. Empowering answer. Beautifully articulated. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and of course, my book 101 review in fifth season as well, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in its fifth season too.
I think
Geography
in
101.
your
Yes.
fourth season of Comedy 101, I can see you getting on Kill Tony or Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, yes. Totally. And Geography 101 in sports season, and my baby podcast, Law 101, and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 review, and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. J, if we successfully shift focus beyond capital, what does fundamentally transform behavioral health landscape look like in 10 years?
It looks like people going in, actually getting help, and not coming back. That they have long term success. I would hope that's the outcome that we're all striving for.
Yes, for
Very much
sure.
like the doctor's office. You know the
Y-
doctor's office?
Definitely, Mr. J. Tobey. Again, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and empowering answer to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or any projects that you are doing right now?
Yes, go to northstarrecovery.care. Get involved. We do tons of service projects. We just helped furnish a bunch of houses for people. Those were all through donations. We also have investment opportunities as low as $500. If you're going to, what we looked at is if you're going to donate to this sector, we do have a nonprofit as well, but might as well donate and get a return back. So it's a monthly distribution, and that will be coming in the next few months.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. J. Tobey, because if you support him, as I said, more empowering business to come, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Mr. J, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate it. I think what you're doing is fantastic. I loved all your other podcasts, and you're doing a great work in this sector.
Thank you so much, Mr. J, and more to come, people. See you soon.